Glad to have you join us on this edition of the show. Yes, this year has been challenging for a number of reasons, but the African startup and innovation ecosystem continues to attract attention. My guest is passionate about supporting startups and joins to share her thoughts on how the African innovation ecosystem can continue to thrive despite the challenges. We kick off the show with some interesting news and updates. This is Tech Trends, and I'm Chukwemeka Agbata.
People generally think of technology simply as a spur to start a new business. But the internet has also made it possible for more businesses to compete for any given opportunity. God's Delight Jude is a 200-level electronics engineering student of the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. When he's not in school, he's in Jos learning from his father the practical aspect of his course, designing and producing inverters for sale. God's Delight says he first picked interest in electronics when he was in secondary school. Building on his curiosity, at the age of 17, he could already draw diagrams, print and design circuit boards. At 19 years and in the university, he finds himself on the same path, specializing in PCB, which means print on circuit board.
There were a few projects my dad did that really caught my interest, like the inverter for one. I saw how capable and efficient the inverter was and I picked interest in it. And sometimes I just look at him when he designs on the computer and I'm fascinated from how you take a design from the computer and how you make it into an inverter. So those things, those big things really motivated me and piqued my interest and pushed me towards practicing it myself. Go. Not too big. It's more like in school I read, then when I have time I practice what I read. So it's more like 1 and 2 for me. It's easier for me because that's what I study. So the more I do one, the more good I am in the other. So it works hand in hand and they both elevate me in my general education.
With different kinds of solar inverters made readily available in the market, what makes Joan Inverter stand out?
Inverters firstly have protection. When you, for instance, accidentally in the house, 2 wires bridge, wrong connection, and you have a short circuit. Normal inverters will go boom, like they will bridge and get spoiled. But our inverter is smart enough to notice that short circuit and off itself. So it does 2 things there. It offs itself and prevents other appliances from spoiling. So it prevents itself from spoiling, prevents other appliances from spoiling. So when it goes off, it gives a beep sound for some seconds. Then to check again if the short circuit is still there. If it's still there, it will remain off. So till you verify the short circuit and you remove the wires that are touching, it will automatically come up again. The second thing that makes it different is this charge protection. It ensures that battery optimization is possible. Firstly, it elongates the span of the battery by regulating the use of the battery. So the inverter makes it in such a way that the charging does not go above the required voltage of the battery. It protects the battery by keeping it at a particular voltage, not allowing it to charge above a particular voltage and not allowing it to go below a particular voltage.
With 70% of the materials used in production sourced locally in Nigeria and the remaining 30%, which are more of programmables, imported either from China or neighboring countries in Africa, God's Delight, like every other innovator, seeks an enabling environment to thrive.
Not too big.
He highlights some of the hiccups he faces with his team.
The equipment to use for producing the inverters. Because how it is now is we had to improvise with some of our equipment. We designed some of the equipment ourselves. And the equipment generally reduces our production rate. It hinders us from mass producing. So we had to improvise some equipment for mass producing, make some ourselves. And another problem we had was a suitable environment. You know, these things like testing inverters, making them, it might be dangerous to other people. So we didn't have a stable lab to test run these inverters. So we usually take them home. We build somewhere in our house where we, after making the inverter, we test run them at home in a safer environment.
The young techpreneur says his dad has played a major role in the acquisition of his skills by practically engaging him and giving him access to equipment for use.
You know, necessity is the mother of invention. This inverter project came into being when we had very bad light situation in the country. So we started with DC fluorescent production, that you connect fluorescent direct to your battery and you get light. So at a point in time, it was selling and people were patronizing it. So somebody came and met me and said, please, if you can do something, even if it is for just 30 minutes, that I will listen to the network news and the battery goes off, we'll appreciate. So I went into research. So gradually we started with square wave inverter. They were not perfect, but they were working. Then gradually we were upgrading from square wave. We went to modify sine wave till we now got to where we are now, which is the sine wave.
Even inside the controller, still have boards inside. I'm working on an inverter that you can use your phone and study the parameters of the inverter. You can use your phone and monitor the inverter. Even when you're at your workplace, you're monitoring the inverter with your phone. If the inverter has an issue, to locate where the issue is and send it to your phone. So from your phone, you can see the issue. If possible, you can rectify it with your phone without calling someone else, calling an engineer to rectify it. And if the problem is above what you can do with your phone, you just forward the information to the engineer, and the engineer goes around, because the system will tell the engineer where the problem is, so it's easier for him to locate the problem and fix it.
God's Delight says although they currently lack the key equipment needed for mass production, he says he looks forward to making solar energy affordable for every household in Nigeria.
A university in East China is using robots to deliver postal parcels for its students during the Singles' Day shopping season. The robots now deliver more than 3,000 parcels daily in Xinjiang campus of Zhejiang University. The students say those robots have offered convenience to them.
Now we only need to book our smartphones for pickup service. The robots will arrive at our dormitory building and we just need to come downstairs at the appointed time and location to pick up our packages. It is quite convenient.
As there are so many parcels during the Singles' Day shopping spree, the robots offer convenience and reduce the pressure on the stations where the parcels are kept temporarily for the recipients.
The campus receives more than 5 million parcels every year. Now, with the help of these robots, students can get their packages in 10 minutes after booking for the service on their mobile phones. So far, such robots have taken the role of couriers in dozens of communities, university campuses and industrial parks across the country, which helps improve efficiency of delivery.
A Japanese institute has rolled out a robot to ensure that people abide by social distancing measures. The social experiment was conducted in a football club in Osaka amid the coronavirus pandemic. The robot, dubbed RoboV, was developed by Kyoto-based Institute Advanced Telecommunications Research Institute International and was equipped with 3D sensors and camera to detect customers who were not following social distancing measures and wearing face masks. RoboV was also programmed to serve customers by offering help to look for the items they want and escorting them to shelves holding their desired items. The developer expects the shop's customers to be more accepting of being asked by an emotionless robot to obey strict coronavirus measures rather than by a human. According to ATR, the development of RoboV is part of research to establish a society where people and robots coexist.
Our tech tips is on how to prevent apps from collecting your data on your Android smartphone. Users' data isn't that safe anymore, and it has been illustrated many a times when news about apps being hacked appears frequently. Several apps have been targeted for harnessing the personal data of users. In case you're worried about your privacy and want to prevent apps from collecting your data, here are a few tips that can help you. Do not allow permission to the apps. Some apps seek permission for making a call, accessing a camera, or a microphone. Some of these requests do not make sense, like a weather app seeking permission to make a call, and that's a possibility that they might be listening. So if an app is asking permission that feels strange to you, feel free to deny it. And if the app is adamant and denies running without the permission, consider downloading an alternative from the App Store. Users can also manage the app permissions one by one, and here's how it's done. Head to the Android phone settings. Look at the apps option or application manager based on your smartphone. Tap on the specific app from the list. Head to the permissions section. Turn off and on the toggle placed in front of each permission like microphone, camera, calls, and more. Alternative users can also head to security settings, app permissions, and then choose the permission type to see what all applications have been granted with that particular permission. Users can also remove and add new apps here.
That's all on our Tech Tips segment.
Next is my chat with Josephine Eyre, a tech communications and marketing consultant based in Cape Town. Stay with us. Joe, glad to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Right. So tell me, how do you see the African startup ecosystem in the face of the pandemic and a difficult 2020?
Oh, well, I think it's been a really challenging year for all of us. But if there's one thing I'd say that African startups are, and they've shown time and time again, it's resilience. This isn't our first rodeo in terms of crisis, unfortunately. But I've seen businesses really take to heart that Churchill adage of never let a good crisis go to waste. So naturally startups with a focus on things like travel and tourism have been quite badly hit. But the beauty, I think, of many of the tech startups, particularly in Africa, is that a lot of them were already quite well positioned to deliver all of their services online. And those that weren't, many have actually pivoted quite successfully. One of the areas I've been looking at quite closely is e-commerce, and it's been a really interesting one to watch because in general they had quite a tough few months over hard lockdown. But those that were able to weather the storm have actually come back stronger. And people don't really want to go into malls quite so much, and people are getting used to shopping online more. So it's going to be great to see where that goes in the future.
This brings me to the question of resilience. How resilient do you think the average African startup is, or the ecosystem in general?
Yeah, so I mean, I'd say that the wonderful thing about startups in general really is that they have a greater ability to maintain flexibility, maintain agility, certainly more than the larger businesses. And perhaps they've recognized that their core offering has been hit with the crisis, but the many startups that I've been looking at have seen that they've still got customers in need. They've still got audiences that they need to speak to. And so they've pivoted to support them in different ways. There's a co-working space that I know here in Cape Town. And they were closed for a long period over lockdown due to all of the restrictions. But what they ended up doing is compartmentalizing their office into small individual pods. And they rented gym equipment, and then they started offering these one-person fitness pods. And with gyms closed, this was a fantastic way to keep offering value to their customers in a slightly different way. So that was really cool to see.
Interesting model. Again, the other question, with startups like that and other startups, do you think what we've seen in the ecosystem is more of a question of by chance, or has it been deliberate? What's your take?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of both. As I mentioned earlier, there's certain industries that have naturally been hit harder than others. But I also think that those businesses that have been able to conserve money, to be lean and agile, and those that have continued to really keep the needs of their customers in mind, they've tended to do okay. They've tended to do better. So these elements have far more to do with the core values of the business, the structures of the business, and the business models themselves. So if these companies are able to continue that, then external factors that you don't have control over will naturally have less impact on you as an organization.
Funding remains a challenge. Pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID. Do you see the strategy around funding changing anytime soon?
Look, I think our economies are in recovery mode. Our economies have been hit. And whilst there is still incredible opportunity for investment, and that I believe will continue for those startups that have a good scalable idea and that are well run. But I would still recommend that these startups do think about conserving their money and to look at other ways, of ensuring that they're lean and their expenditure is intentional.
Do you think, looking at Africa and the challenges that Africa is faced with, do you think technology can solve all or some or most of the problems?
Yeah, look, I'm a tech head, so I'm always going to say yes to that question. But yeah, look, I think when we think about technology these days and we think about tech startups, we're not just talking about the technology in and of itself. We're talking about how we are delivering these services, how we're delivering these products. So in that regard, tech really is core to the vast majority of other industries, other verticals out there. And what's wonderful about the startups in Africa is that mobile is still number one, and that a lot of the mobile innovation across different industries, across different verticals, has then been able to be used elsewhere around the world. And it's great to see startups scaling at that level. And I think that technology is it's going to continue to be a huge driver for us.
One question I'd love to ask when I get to interview women in technology is, how can we increase diversity in the African ecosystem?
Yeah, diversity is it's a challenging one, because I think it means a different thing to different people. But one thing I've seen is that it's really important for entrepreneurs to continue to ask themselves, what can I do to ensure that I'm relevant to as many people as possible? So I think individually, there's fantastic communities out there. for women. There's Future Females, She Leads Africa, and there's it's important to be part of these communities as well. Even if you're not a woman, being able to talk to that base is really important. And also I'd say that the way that I would look to grow and look to maintain relevance is to ensure that you are speaking to people that are different from you. If you hang out with people that are the same as you only talk business with people that are the same as you, then you're restricting yourself. If you're able to find different perspectives, different views, then that's going to help your business as well.
Yeah. So Joe, let's talk about the Cape Town ecosystem. Kenya, Tunisia, and Senegal have come up with a startup law to support the ecosystem. Are we expecting anything from South Africa? And tell us a bit about the Cape Town ecosystem.
Yeah, look, I mean, Cape Town is a fantastic ecosystem. It's very much a hub. It's very much a tech hub. If you look at a lot of the hubs at the accelerators, a lot of them are based here. And it's a beautiful place. I think a lot of the founders here, a lot of the entrepreneurs are inspired by the natural beauty here. And it's just, what really makes it unique, I think, is it's how diverse it is. There's people from all walks of life solving real challenges that are relevant not just for us, but for the rest of the country, the rest of the continent even, and even globally. So it's really fantastic to walk into some of the like Workshop 17 here and some of the other areas and just get talking to people about what they're doing. It's really inspiring. If I ever feel like I'm in a bit of a lull, I go there and I just chat to people. And it's a great way to just tap into what's going on and what's making people do cool things right now.
Yeah, so any startup law coming from in South Africa?
I wouldn't say there's any one particular one. I think it's going to be a case of startups needing to continue talking until we get to that point.
All right, Joe, always a pleasure. I'm so excited about the possibilities of the startup ecosystem across the continent. I wish you all the best. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks so much.
I've been chatting with Josephine Eyre, a tech communication and marketing consultant working with numerous startups across Africa. As you've heard from her, there is indeed a lot of possibilities ahead, but we must create the right kind of environment for the ecosystem to continue to thrive and blossom. It's a wrap on this edition of the show, but the conversation continues online. Join us on social media. Remember, you can watch the entire show on Channels TV YouTube or cfablog.ng. For Tech Trends, I'm Chukwemeka Agbata.